Dr. Gibson. I'm Madeline Spencer, and tonight I'm going to be giving you a presentation on the Back to Africa movement. This is my project for Omnibus Iii Primary. This is Project 5, and I'm giving you a videotaped PowerPoint slide presentation. Two things I wanted to get out of the way are my PowerPoint is up here, so I will be looking up here a lot, and I am going to be saying and I'm pausing a lot because I'm not good at explaining things, so that's just what I do when I'm not good at explaining things. So I'm going to start with the second question I'm going to be answering is, where is Liberia? Liberia is a small country on the west side of Africa, and it is the country that the American Colonization Society wanted to send Africans, like freed slaves, back to. The Back to Africa movement. The Back to Africa movement was also known as the colonization movement. I'm assuming it was called the colonization movement as well because the American Colonization Society is the group that moved the Africans back to Africa, like Liberia. So yeah, they moved them back there because they wanted to return them, because it encouraged the African descendants. So the Africans that have ancestors that were from Africa and Liberia, they wanted to move them back there so they could be in their homeland or culture, like be around more people that are more like them. So this is just an image of Africa, and if you see the green dot, that is Liberia. It's very small. Okay, so now I'm moving on to, I'm actually going back a question. When was Liberia founded? So I'm just going to read the slide I have here. Liberia was founded on January 7th of 1822. It was founded by the American Colonization Society, a group made up of mostly white people, specifically Americans. So what kind of government does Liberia have? The first president of Liberia was Arthur Barkley. He became president in 1904. Liberia's first woman president was Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. I think I'm saying her last name correctly. The current president is George Weah. He was elected this year in 2018. All the presidents in Liberia have been black and are black. George Weah is black. The president that was before him, which was, what's her name? Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. She was black, and the 9 other presidents before them, because there have only been 11 presidents in Liberia, and they were all black, which I find pretty cool because we have had mostly white presidents and no women have been president yet. So yeah, and their flag is red, white, and blue, and I'm assuming that is because the American flag is red, white, and blue, and the American Colonization Society moved the Africans back to Africa. So I'm just going to show you the flag really fast. So there is the Liberian flag. This is just an image of the U.S. flag and the Liberian flag together. You can see that they have a pretty close, they're pretty similar. So the United States established a stronger relationship with Liberia in 1864. This stronger relationship was established long after Liberia declared its independence from the American Colonization Society. The independence of Liberia actually happened the closer relationship happened 17 years after Liberia declared its independence from the American Colonization Society. So they didn't immediately become friends. It was long after they had declared their independence. What is the history of Christianity in Liberia? So while researching about the different religions in Liberia, I found that 76.3% of people in Liberia are Presbyterian. Dr. Gibson, given that you are a Presbyterian, if I remember correctly, you pretty much know what that is. So I'm assuming you know what that is anyway, since you are a Presbyterian yourself. But 85.5% of the country is Christian. That 76.3% is like part of the 85.5% of the Christians in Liberia. The types of religions I found, like Christian religions I found in Liberia, were Baptist, Episcopal, Presbyterian. Obviously, there's a lot of Presbyterians there, and African Methodist Episcopal. An Episcopal is kind of like a Baptist, so it'd be really cool for me to find out what an American Methodist Episcopal is. So there are Muslims in Liberia, but there are not as many Muslims in Liberia as there are Christians. When researching for Christianity in Liberia, I found that 12.2% of Liberia is Muslim. So, yeah. There has been a lot of chaos in Liberia, and I think part of it has to do with that they are a very small country, and there are a lot of people living in the country for its size. So there are over 4 million people, but it is a small country, so it's a lot of people for a small country. It's just also a very poor environment to live in. But God has people living in the country for reasons, and God has his reasons. So they're all there for a reason, but it is still a very chaotic part of the world. And like I said, part of it has to do with it being small, and there are a lot of people in it, and not everyone in that country is going to have a easy, laid-back state of mind. Some of them are going to be very crazy. So yeah, and there has been, over the past, I think it was 10 or so years, have been a lot of looters going around. So there's been a lot of lootering, which is never a good thing, and so many people have to go out of their way to make sure that they don't lose much with all the lootering that's been going on, because that's never a good thing. So Liberia has 3 countries that border it: Sierra Leone, and these other 2 countries, I do not think I'm saying the names of them correctly, so yeah. Sierra Leone is one of the countries that border Liberia. Guinea, and I know I'm not saying this last one right. Cote d'Ivoire, I don't know. I'll show you the picture. So this is Liberia, Guinea, I don't know, and Cote d'Ivoire. So yeah, and you can see the capital of Liberia over there, which is where the little star is. So Sierra Leone and Liberia did have a war, kind of. Liberia did blow up some of the small countries that border it, so like the countries very close to it and around it. I think the same thing happened with Guinea. I really couldn't find a whole bunch of conflict between Cote d'Ivoire and Liberia, so I'm assuming they're okay. Like, they're probably not super close because I couldn't find much conflict like between them, but I don't think they're like have the boundaries that Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia have, because Sierra Leone and Guinea and Liberia all have a contract that say that they cannot cross borders, so they cannot go, like, people in Liberia cannot go into Sierra Leone. I think that's kind of what it said. So, yep. So, are there any American customs in the Liberian culture, since it was founded by, America? Because since it was founded by Americans, you'd think there would be some customs they share, some things that they share. And they, in fact, are. Americans, I don't know where the slide went. I'm going to have to type it back up because I lost it. So I need to remember to do that when I'm done recording this. But Liberia does celebrate holidays. I found this on a website, obviously, because I was researching Liberia. what was I saying? Yes. So we do like celebrate holidays here in America, like Christmas, Easter. Is Valentine's Day really like a holiday? I don't know. Is it Valentine's Day next week? I have no clue. Anyway, but Liberia does celebrate, like, I guess because they do celebrate American holidays somewhat. Christmas, I'm assuming they celebrate Easter because they have mostly Americans, Christians, living in Liberia. So, because Easter's about Christ, and most of them are Christian. Like 85.5% of the country is Christian. So I'm assuming Easter is something that's celebrated there. Birthdays, that's just something that gets celebrated unless you're a Jehovah's Witness, which I did not know they didn't celebrate birthdays. So what do I think about the Back to Africa movement? I wanted to put this slide in there because I just thought I'd give my opinion. So being freed from slavery is a great thing because being a slave is never a good thing. Where was I going with this? Yes. Remember where I was going with this. Yes, that's where I was going with this. So it's great to be freed from slavery and all. I love that they came to America and they got to live in America. But I do think it was great that they went back to Africa because Americans thought it was best that they would be around people more like them. Because at the time, black people and white people never got along well. And till this day, black people and white people still hate each other's guts. So I do think it was a good thing for them to go back to Africa and be around more black people. If they ever went back and they had to be slaves again, that would not be a good thing because I'm against slavery, obviously. So if they had to go back there and do more slave work, they were just sent there to be slaves again. That's just very wrong. But if they were sent back there to live a peaceful, wonderful, settled in, laid-back life, the life that they were born to live, that is a good thing to be sent back to Africa and be around more people like you. So, yeah. This was my Omnibus, I almost said Omnibus 5. Omnibus Iii Primary Project 5. So I hope this was interesting to you and that this video gave further explanation of my PowerPoint. And I hope you enjoyed it and that me trying to explain this was not confusing.